We are officially live here on Vimeo, the Facebooks, on everything. Let me click on over to my script here. It says double check the connection to Vimeo. Okay, we're all good here. Thank you very much for tuning in. You're currently watching the TattooNOW show. It is, let's see, June 22nd. It's actually 6 p.m. We're doing a special edition late show with Adrian Dominic. He's beaming in from somewhere from Australia. I forgot to even ask which city, but it's awesome. He's an amazing tattooer and artist of a variety of mediums. And in this case, we're going to talk a lot about VR. Here, let me just share a quick little teaser of what we'll be looking at here, because I know how important it is, evidently, to tease, right? But let's, yeah, look at this. This is all crazy VR world here. And maybe it was a Hell City. Adrian did, well, I guess it's worldwide. Adrian did a bit of a demo where you could download onto your phone or your tablet this software. It's pretty simple, and then all of a sudden you're in this like virtual world. There's sleeve designs. It's pretty amazing. Anyways, point is, we're going to be talking about the VR world with Adrian Dominic coming up on the TattooNOW show. In the meantime, please bear with me. I want to make sure that this is actually working and streaming, and let you know a little bit about the Reinventing the Tattoo network that is making all of these streams possible. So let me do that right now. Welcome to Guy Aitchison's Reinventing the Tattoo community, where tattooers, apprentices, collectors, and the curious are all encouraged to join into these live streams, to watch the replays, ultimately to inspire each other and create better art, well, and tattoos together. Now, we're beaming out 5 days a week, and with your help, have evolved into a quality network of amazing live and on-demand tattoo and art shows that have been receiving rave reviews. It's pretty amazing. Now, not sure exactly where you're beaming in from now, but here, get ready for the list of where you can find Reinventing the Tattoo. Both of the app stores, that's the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store, the YouTube channel, or Roku, or on smart TVs. We are in all of the podcast places, that is Apple, Spotify, etc. Just do a search for Reinventing the Tattoo. And then, yeah, please leave your positive reviews in the public so that you could rank us up, and those algorithms actually care if people actually like our stuff. And all the constructive criticism and all the critiques and whatnot, we love that too. Just send that straight to management at reinventingthetattoo.com. I'm going to screen share. Speaking of reinventingthetattoo.com, I'm going to screen share so that you can see, no matter where you're beaming in from, the latest and greatest can always be found on reinventingthetattoo.com, which is one of these. Sorry, bear with me here. I swear I have it open up on a new window, and I didn't open up 3 other windows in the meantime. I guess I might have. Here, let's try this here. Sure, boom. Now I'm going to www.reinventingthetattoo.com. And like I said, no matter where you're beaming in from, you'll always find the latest information right here on the website until .coms go away. Up here in the free tattoo resources, there's free tattoo courses. Of course, we don't teach you to tattoo for free. You can't learn how to tattoo online, but we have the history of electric tattooing, our free reinventing community resources, and the tattoo prehistory. This is all like mummies and stuff. The Jay Brown from the Northwest Tattoo Museum is doing an amazing job here of adding crazy lessons, and it's basically an academic take on all of this tattoo history that everyone has been complaining that none of the youngsters know anymore. So unless you know all about all of this, you can now, well, if you're one of the apprentice types, you can learn it. And if you're one of the cranky old bastards that are complaining, then you better know it, because your apprentices might know it after they take that course. Okay, anyways, there's a lot of other free resources here. Watch Reinventing 24/7. This here, it's basically a mirror of our Roku channel. So if you're on Roku and you download it, you'll see it's basically, what do we have? We have 12 channels going 24/7. This is the Reinventing podcast. This is a replay with Professor Maylene. It's pretty crazy. We have a Reinventing drawing group replays. This is the drawing groups where our artists are encouraged to beam in and draw. We have art jams. So these are the art jams. This one's here with Guy and Tony Rommel. There's a Spanish channel. So if you speak Spanish or you know someone who speaks Spanish, there is art jams and interviews and whatnot, 24/7. Let's see, we've got the Tattoo Weekly every Monday at 11 a.m. with Jake Meeks, Lauren Gregory, and I. We cover different topics from the week and interview people. Live in the Castro, this is Haley Adams, straight from San Francisco, interviewing LGBTQ plus people of color, all sorts of awesome stories. Let's see, we have a Tattoo Machine channel hosted by Tony Urbanik and Gary Bankbilt. We have a Tattoo Convention channel. This is the history of tattoo conventions with Good Time Charlie. So Alex Van Dutch is interviewing Charlie about all of the different histories. Anyways, as you get the idea here, we have just tons of different channels. Our RIT Marketplace. So this is all of the sponsors and the businesses. This happens to be a True Tubes open house and tour, tattoo history, and oh yeah, it's a drunk critique channel. So yeah, oh man, it looks like it's getting very late there. Anyways, let's not show that in the intro. Point is, if you go to reinventingthetattoo.com and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, you're not quite sure what to watch on Netflix, you could just click on that Reinventing 24/7 link or go to the Roku. And yeah, it's also great for recommending your friends and family. If you're not quite sure where to start, then yeah, again, there's 12 different things going on all at the same time. Okay, bear with me here. We don't do any ads during the middle of this. I'm going to thank all of our sponsors, which are, okay, so Raw Pigments, rawpigments.co. They are acrylic-free pigments, so they don't dry out in the cup. I don't know if that's because they're acrylic-free or they just don't, but one way or another, they've been sponsoring the Reinventing Network for over a year and a half. People have been trying out the inks and they have been sticking. So it's pretty fun to see people dig them. Rawpigments.co, worldtattooevents.com. You saw Alex Van Dutch. Oh, is my, uh-oh.
I can hear you. Your microphone.
You can hear me.
On. Yeah, I can hear you. Just
the headphone is still on.
Your headphone's
microphone's still working?
Yep.
Testing. Okay, well, that's interesting. Oh, look at that. It's because it's using the different microphone. Well, okay, perfect. DLize Pro is known as Dermalize worldwide, but in America, it's DLize Pro. Thank you to International Copyright Stuff. It is a healing wrap that is designed to breathe, so the oxygen will get into your skin and help it heal, but it keeps away all the bad stuff. You can check out, again, all the videos. There's a lot of artists that use it. Protect your art. Dermalize worldwide, DLize Pro in the United States. TattooNOW. I do technology and business for tattoo artists, tattoo studios, tattoo supply and support companies. I would love to help your company if you're supporting tattooers do computery stuff. And then not last, first, Guy Aitchison, guyaitchison.com. He is the founder of Reinventing the Tattoo. It started off as a 3-ring binder in the early 90s as a complement to his seminar, and he has been teaching and expanding the formats since. It's now a full online platform. He's got like 20 other courses. There is 3 times a year, the Reinventing the Tattoo in Evolution, which is a course that I think it's an enrollment of 50, and then everyone kind of goes through the whole book together. It's pretty amazing. Or you could just buy the Canon and get it, again, if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you want to get all the data right then and there, just grab the Canon, become a subscriber, and yeah, it's decades and decades and decades of tattoo knowledge at your fingertips. Okay. I'm going to not hop in the background. I'm actually going to stay in the foreground now to interview Adrian and show off some of his great work. But yeah, please. Oh, I guess I'm going to have to check. You know, it's crazy because now I'm doing tech at the same time. Now I get to see if it's actually streaming out in all the places. Okay, YouTube check. YouTube check. You know, sometimes I do this, and when it's not working, I'm like, oh no, I have to do that again. But oh, look at this. It's working on the Facebooks. Okay. Awesome. Let me fire up this in the background. Adrian, how are you? Thanks for tuning in. It's bright and early there in Australia.
It is. Thanks for having me, Gabe. It is 8:15 in the morning here on Thursday morning. So we're actually a little bit ahead of you guys.
Awesome.
And yeah, that's the reason that Gabe was so gracious to make a special late broadcast for me is because yeah, it's quite early in the morning here. So thanks for having me. It's a beautiful winter morning. We're just past our winter equinox, so it's still pretty chilly out there, but not like East Coast chilly at all. Like it's,
No, it was like on the top of one of the mountains here. It was snowing yesterday. It was. I'm wearing jeans in June.
Oh.
I mean, I love it. My British genetics is it's catching up here. I'm like, ooh, it's 60 and raining. Now,
yeah, it's not that
you
bad.
weren't always in Australia though, right? So we were just before the show, we were mentioning that we met. It was like early 2000s, 2003. I remember. Oh, my daughter must have been 1 or 2 years old. Cecilia was she's 19 now.
Tiny. So crazy to me.
And I remember coming out to the Sacramento convention with Lou Jacques and Nick Baxter, and he tattooed you. That was when you guys first met. Do you remember much about that time, or that must have been when you were first?
I do. I think it was called what is it? Tattoo Sideshow or something like that. The Sideshow Tattoo Convention, maybe. Because I know the guy
All American, maybe.
Was it the All American? You know what? It was the All American Tattoo Convention. You're right. And yes, I had met you there. I had met Nick Baxter. That was the first time he tattooed me. He did a piece on my chest. I felt like I had won the lottery because he was one of my favorite tattooers at the time, especially, in those years, there wasn't a lot of younger tattooers. And so I was very happy to meet somebody else who was interested in tattooing that was of my age group, that was also trying to push it in a direction that we hadn't seen. And yeah, that was kind of that show was kind of the beginning of opening up a serious network for me, upon which I was able to grow into later.
What was it about Nick's work that was attracting you to it? Were you doing similar work at the time, or what was the?
So I was really interested in studying biomechanical tattooing, as I've always been interested in. And there was something about Nick's work. He was doing this very visceral, fleshy looking like material that looked like almost the insides of organs or something. It looked very surgical. And I really wanted to incorporate some of what he was doing into my work. And I was able to meet him, to be able to talk about those things. And a lot of after meeting, we actually did several collaborations. I lived upstairs from him for a little while, and we worked together at Transcend. And it was during those years that I feel like I gained some of like the most traction in the shortest amount of time. And now he's very much become a very well-rounded biomechanical tattooer himself. So it was cool to be able to not only learn so much from working with them, but for us to be able to exchange ideas a lot that really influenced our work.
That was awesome. Can you show us the tattoo, or?
So it's this piece on my chest here. It's kind of hard to see, but it's a key with these spheres, yellow, blue, and red. It's aged really good. They're even, you can even kind of see in this poor light, you can still see the yellow here, the yellow stuck around, all the colors stuck around. It aged like a tattoo ages, but
Sure, man.
That was another thing, is that, we were trying things, especially back then, that some of the older tattooers were kind of looking down upon, saying that they weren't going to stick around and they weren't going to age properly. And it still did what a tattoo does. Those lines grew, some of those, those shades kind of, dispersed a little bit, but for all intents and purposes, it's all still there. So that was one of the things that we really got to learn, with working with each other, as, pushing those boundaries was able to show us what did and what didn't work,
Yeah. I was gonna say I have a tattoo on my foot from Nick from that era. I was gonna try to get my foot up there, but at 47, there's no way I'm fucking doing that. James Wisdom is in the chat room. He says, back in my day, we walked to the tattoo shop uphill in the snow both directions. And yeah, I guess we get to pit our New England snow versus the Chicago snow. You never really had much snow, huh? You've always been.
I didn't have much snow because I was born and raised in Phoenix. I spent a lot of my career tattooing in Arizona. I did travel and I did live in Connecticut for about a year, little over a year. Cold wasn't for me. Yeah, I got a winter. And I learned that I know exactly when it was. It was the day that I went to go to work. Nick wasn't working. Like I said, he lived in the same building as I did. And I couldn't get my key into the lock. I thought somebody had put super glue in my lock. So I go upstairs and I asked Nick if he can give me a ride to work because I couldn't get my key in the lock. He kind of just looked at me and smirked and shook his head, and he brought a washcloth with some warm water on it and just put that on my lock and was like, you just need to defrost your lock. That was the moment that I realized that it is too cold for human beings to live here, and I left.
Awesome. Like, Nick, you're a great influence, but I got boogie. So now you've always been interested in multiple mediums. It seems like it was a graffiti before then, and computers and tech. Let's talk about, like, even back then, maybe what are some of your first introductions to artwork and mediums and digital stuff?
So I came from a bit of a less unfortunate upbringing in my background. We were poor. We had a lot of gangs around us, things like that. So in order for me to be able to engage with my community but not have to be involved with gangs, graffiti was kind of one of the social activities that I could get involved with, and kind of like still be able to not have to deal with all those other things. I got really lucky in that I was able to find something within graffiti that I enjoyed, that I was able to grow into, that I was able to explore and express myself. And that was kind of one of the beginnings of me being able to, create artwork that was satisfying to me. And then from that stage, I had been tattooing, or I had been drawing a lot of designs for friends that ended up getting them tattooed on them. And I didn't really like the translations. So after trying to get into the Art Institute of Phoenix and failing to do that, I started looking around for, what the next option, what else I could do. And tattooing was one of those things that stood out. I had very much enjoyed seeing tattoos on some of my friends. Growing up around a lot of gangster people, I saw a lot of Cholo style and Chicano style tattooing growing up. So it was a natural transition to tattooing. And then once I got into tattooing, it was probably around I would say it was probably around 2009, 2010 that I had gotten a hold of ZBrush. And in ZBrush, I had just seen what a lot of video game designers, film studios were doing, and I was just kind of enamored by it all. So I messed with it, and I learned a little bit here and there, and I was able to apply it to a couple of tattoos and use it as just basic reference building. And that was kind of primarily what my explorations of computer 3D work kind of had led me to. Other than that, I had been using Photoshop, a little bit of Procreate, image making programs just for making stencils and references and things like that. And that's kind of where it stood up until about 8 or 9 months ago. I upgraded my computer to something really high end, and that changed the course of the directions that I wanted to go with it.
And is this, so we're on your website here, is this the Over experience? Are these the spots here for the
this new stuff? The platform that I'm working with right now is called Over. It is available as an app, as a free app that people can get on their phones and on their tablets as well, but it's primarily smartphones and tablets. And I am able to upload my own 3D content into the environments, and then people can access them through their phone with an address, kind of like a URL. So what you're looking at now, these are different URLs and different experiences that I built. And in those experiences, we can go in there and we can interact, we can talk, we can have conversations, we can tour the environment together, And that's kind of what I've been spending a lot of my time when I'm not tattooing doing is a lot of people have referred to these platforms as metaverses, and they are technically those things. I try to not use that word as much as possible because there is a stigma to it. I think people think that metaverses mean Facebook, and that's not the case.
Sure.
There are several different metaverse projects. Facebook's has one of them. But yeah, Ober has its own metaverse. It's super accessible. There's a
And the
couple
main
of
thing
moving
with the
parts
so
to
just
make it work. Go ahead.
like the one that you're working with over, it's open source as opposed to like the metaverse that Facebook is, and it's like it's proprietary. So it's like in the with the Oculus glasses, you're like wired right into Facebook, whereas
Right.
with this platform, it's it's more like it's an open platform.
Well, yeah, it's definitely open source, but it's also decentralized. And in that, if you own one of these, so these are essentially like, plots of digital land. And if you own one of them, you can put whatever you want on there. Right now, we haven't seen anybody putting too much bad stuff on there, for lack of a better description.
Yeah. And
But
this is in reality. So this is augmented reality, right? So this is like
this is augmented reality. And the only
Nice.
the only real difference I think between the two of them as far as how I'm presenting my work is in augmented reality, you should be able to see something from your real world. With virtual reality, it'll be enclosed.
Right.
I want to make sure to emphasize that, even when my projects are enclosed, these are still only accessible via smartphones and tablets. You can't access these on an Oculus or a headset. And some people have, felt a little bit apprehensive to trying this because of that. I actually find it to be the opposite, and it makes it a lot more accessible to people who think that they can't participate
Oh yeah,
because they don't have
absolutely.
a headset. It's,
I mean, everyone's got a
literally
phone.
just everybody's got a phone. So it's literally something that you can access in your pocket really easily. And sometimes I think another stigma that people have is the term augmented reality or AR, and how to, like, what I do to be able to kind of like shake them of that is I explain to them that most of them have already been using augmented reality. If they've ever used a Snapchat or an Instagram face filter, that's
Sure.
augmented reality. It's just it's used in a different way. So instead of using facial tracking, I'm using plane tracking, which means that I'm looking for a floor. It scans and it looks for a flat surface. As soon as I find a flat surface, then I can deploy my assets, which are these 3D objects. And I've been doing so just kind of as fun, like expressing myself as an artist and making it to where people across the world can visit my art with me. But I'm also figuring out a lot of ways to integrate this into the tattoo shop experience.
Yeah, and and to that point, one of the clips that was in this reel is the spot where you have the sleeves. So these are like full on sleeve designs. Let me hop back to the video here.
So what I did for that was I built essentially it was a gallery, and in that gallery I was able to take these biomechanical designs that I had made. I was showing examples of what they look like in their black and white form and their stencil form. Here's a couple of bodysuit concepts that were made using that design. And then if you look between each one of those walls, there are sleeves made with those designs as well. The idea for these was to be able to not only show these designs and what they can be done or what can be done with them in different ways, but also to make them available for other tattooers who wanted to maybe access some of the designs that I've made and tattoo it either on other clients, get it tattooed on themselves. And that's in part what's available here. It's set up kind of like a bespoke tailor's showroom, like when you would walk into a showroom and you would see a nice suit of some of their best work and a couple of different examples of the fabrics. It was modeled off of a similar like style of, I guess, delivery. And hopefully here soon, I'll be able to offer similar things for tattoo shops to be able to purchase from me and customize for with their own designs.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And I love the fact that, you're really at the forefront of, just showing off what's possible with, in the combination of these two spaces. And, it was pretty fun when you were showing this off at the Hell City Tattoo Fest. Was it Russ Abbott who was able to also beam in? Is he the other fellow?
Russ Abbott showed up.
So we didn't. Let's talk about the. Sorry, yeah. Let's talk about the collaborative aspect of it, right? So, like, now here we are. People can download the links from the descriptions, or that'll pop up to play with. But one of the things that's cool is you're there on your phone, but then there's other people that could be here.
Right. So when I first got you to come in one of these experiences, I believe it was in the pink one and the purple one that you're looking at on the screen now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we had like 12 different people in the room. A handful of those people were from the Ober community, people that I've been talking with and working with over the last couple of years, or over the last couple of months, I'm sorry. And then a handful of tattooers, there was you, Joe Capobianco showed up, Taylor Court, and a handful of artists. And we were literally like, we all had our avatars in the room where we were walking around and engaging in conversation with each other. We can see what each other was doing to a certain degree. That's probably one of the strongest aspects of the whole platform, is the fact that there is the socialization aspect. We can talk, we can engage, we can, point at things that we're looking at. Obviously we can't, pick stuff up, and we can't, change things in the room as of yet, but this is still pretty new technology, and it's very new in how we're applying that technology. So every day we're looking for new solutions to some of these issues. Tattooers are notorious for not wanting to try new technology, and when they do try these new technologies, they often find all the things wrong with it instead of all the things that are practical or potentially beneficial to it. So I'm trying to approach this whole thing with that in mind, and trying to make it as streamlined and as simple as possible. And hopefully really soon, like within the next month or two, I should be able to offer these as purchasable products. There is a tattoo studio very well known here in Australia that I'm kind of testing some things with. We're also going to be testing some things at the tattoo studio that I work at in Broad Beach. It's called 383 Tattoo. And the idea is that we can be able to remotely have clients come and engage in a conversation with us, or even in consultation with us, without having to physically be in the same room. Now, I'm sure a lot of tattoo artists, in the States as well, especially ones who are looking at reinventing, may have some clients that travel, whether it's interstate or internationally. And that, with gas prices being what they are, travel prices being what they are, of course, people are concerned about COVID safe, things like that. So this, doesn't necessarily replace a consultation. However, it is kind of a supplement for it. So we're really trying our best to explore the nature of that supplementation, so that, tattoo artists and tattoo shops can have a new set of tools that, again, doesn't replicate or doesn't replace the need for face-to-face engagement, but it could be something that takes its place when other things get in the way. Let's say an artist is unwell. Let's say an artist has a flu, still wants to have his consultation, or vice versa. A client is unwell, or they're 2 hours away and don't want to drive in for 15 minutes to talk about their design. Here we can offer a capability of them being able to do that by simply having access to an app on their phone, and a little bit of knowledge on the end of the essentially the IT side for the tattoo studio.
One of the questions
that's a curriculum to make that happen. Go ahead. Sorry.
So I was going to say, there's a question that's coming in from James Wisdom here. He's talking about, well, for one of his comments is that, subversion and acceptance seem to both be part of the enjoyment that one seeks through the art. Maybe this is a way to determine your own style. And then kind of maybe alongside of that, he's also asking, kind of to what you were just talking about, with the over AR, augmented reality, you could show the client what the piece will look like. Now, so is there a way potentially for you to map onto a client? I mean, I guess ultimately you're mapping onto 3D parts, but could you eventually?
Ideally, yes. Right now, it's difficult because, all right, in not so many words, what we're using, what over is, and what a lot of metaverses are, they're video games. They're video games used from a new context. So that has to be kept in mind when we're talking about how we can use this technology, because we're essentially coding a game to be able to be something that can be interacted with in a real world situation. One of the things that we run into as far as an issue is this term called collisions, colliders. Colliders in the video game context and means that things can pass in front of and behind real world objects. So like, let's say that we wanted to take a tattoo design and have a client be able to look at it in that room, in that space. It would be difficult without actually having body tracking of that client in the space. Now, this is where I was talking about the technology. I don't want to say run short, but it's where we're at in it right now. We're definitely nowhere near Ready Player One metaverse stuff. And I think that's one of the misconceptions that people have when they hear the term metaverse, is they think, oh, like it's, Elon Musk is putting stuff in our brains and that's the end of it. Like we're nowhere near that yet. We're nowhere near that. So we're just, and these things that I'm making are nowhere near, I guess, trying to pursue that at all. Like this is really just me using really, for lack of a better description, like PlayStation 2 level graphics with a processor that's in your cell phone, which is super simple processor comparative to like a video game rig or a computer, and trying our best to be able to make as much out of that as possible.
Yeah. Well, and
very kind of limited with files, the file size is super small. So there's only so much that we can do with it as of yet.
Now, to that point, you're not necessarily like trying to force that. Like, so you have the designs that are in the VR world, and we haven't talked about the NFT part of it yet, but we can in a second or in a couple of minutes. But you're really just kind of digging right into this, as an artist, with tattooing as one of your main mediums. But this is just another medium. You're taking gigs, creating virtual worlds for different companies, right? Is that you started by building art spaces with cool bio stuff. But that led to, some other real gigs.
Yeah, so there was a company that I finished a project for about 2 months ago, a composite decking company called Trex, and I made a virtual showroom for them. That was one of the things that was in my video. There's also a festival out of Wales in India called the Zero Focus Festival. And I made a virtual stage for them so that they can debut a new piece of audio, a new song. And that was one of the things that I got commissioned to do. So there's been a couple of small commission jobs, nothing too crazy, but I've been getting paid to learn. And it was really quickly that I was able to show that community that not only was I experimenting with it, but that I was able to bring some really fresh and new ideas. And I've gotten really positive responses. There's a couple of other projects that I'm involved in now, and I have to do my best to kind of keep those projects at arm's length in order to be able to stay focused on the stuff that I want to make as well. That's the balance, though. That's the dance, staying a part of my community, because I do consider myself a part of these metaverse builder communities now, as well as the tattoo community, but still stay true to my own artistic visions and what I want to do. I am still just, at the end of it all, this is just me being a nerd playing with a new toy and seeing how I can show the communities that I've been involved in this case, tattooing, how that can apply, you know?
Oh yeah, no, it's awesome. And I imagine that when when the surgical robots, are doing the actual tattooing on, people, it'll be the graphic designs, it'll be the flow, it'll be, um, people like you that are kind of in the forefront of that space that won't skip a beat, right? I mean, obviously there's always, it feels like there'll always be a place for like hand electric machine tattooing, right? But eventually, as we're, the computers and the robots and all this stuff are getting pretty crazy. So the more you can interface with them, feels like the better.
Maybe, and I think that I kind of like, I have a tendency of being on the edge of that. Some days I feel, that it is better to be more integrated. Sometimes I feel that it's better to be less integrated. I think there's always going to be a space for handmade goods, handmade tattoos, things like that. That's not necessarily the direction that I'm trying to aim as far as my contribution to the technology is, adding to the potential of that being automated. How do I put it? I'm not trying to add to the automation of tattooing so much as I'm trying to enhance. All right, for instance, if you think about, I don't know, there's, for some people who haven't been tattooing more than say a decade, it might not apply the same way. But when I first got into tattooing, I remember when I would go into a tattoo shop and I would, purchase a tattoo, or I'd make an appointment to get tattooed that day, or I'd walk in, or even if it was an appointment, walk in, I'd have to wait for the artist for a couple minutes, maybe 15 minutes while they get set up. I would look at books that were on the table, whether it was portfolios, a stack of tattoo magazines, pictures of tattoo designs on the walls, maybe a couple of magazine articles that were framed up on the walls talking about each one of the tattooers, a couple of trophies from different conventions. While I was in the shop waiting to get tattooed, I was engaging with material and content that was specifically directed towards my experience. It was a tattoo experience. Nowadays, we all have cell phones. So most people that go in a shop and they're waiting for their client, they're looking at stuff on Instagram or Twitter or whatever, social media platform that they're looking at.
TikTok now.
But what's that?
TikTok now.
TikTok now. Exactly. What I'm hoping to do with this project, and what I'm going to be offering to tattoo shops here soon, is a way to be able to take that behavior that people are already going to be on their phones and give them something to look at that's going to be intriguing and interesting for their tattoo experience, that also showcases the art of the tattoo shop, the art of the tattoo artists that work there, and just tattooing in general. So I'm kind of trying to like use this technology to bring it back to kind of what it was in a weird way, but just through a new vector, through a new medium.
So are you talking about like, I can see this working, and it's amazing because just the fact that the phone would be in the way, but like if you walked into a tattoo shop and it had a little, whatever,
QR code or something,
a little QR code, and then all of a sudden, or it could just be a little sign that's like, point your camera at this and click the link, and then when they go around the tattoo shop, because you have the tattoo shop space kind of mapped, they can,
right?
Yeah, fucking gonna kill it.
And it doesn't have to be like crazy. It doesn't have to be crazy either. Like, in fact, I actually find it to when there's less assets and the experience is more simplified, then it enhances the environment. It enhances the background. This is where I think augmented reality is more effective in this particular use case than a virtual reality. You want to be able to see the tattoo shop. These tattoo shops, a lot of tattoo shops are beautiful places. They're beautiful spaces with a great amount of detail and great collections of art. You don't want to hide that. You want to accentuate that. So I'm trying to make experiences that do just that, that accentuate those things and give people something a little bit extra to look at. They're already interested in what their phones are doing. Again, like, people are already experienced with augmented reality. This is just a new way to be able to do that.
Yeah, I love the idea of using just specific spaces, right? So you could map out, well, again, if it's just like a wall or two, or even a framed out space in a wall, like here,
right?
Like there's like a frame hanging in the middle of the fucking space, right? So like that could be your tattoo shop,
Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. No, so you're working on this. It'll be a couple months, you think, before you're working
I would
with a couple
say
different shops?
I'm thinking that it's going to be a couple of weeks before I have like my testers running. And the reason that I say a couple of months is because I want to give it a couple of weeks once my testers get a hold of the tech to see what works and what doesn't work for them. And then I'm going to package it in a relatively simple like format in order to be able to essentially, like, what I'll do is I'm going to have maybe 3 or 4 different options of formats. Maybe it's going to be a wall that has a couple of framed artworks on it. One of those options will have a mannequin in there for a back piece. Different options like that, and then basically they will purchase that from me. And what I'll do is I'll take all of the artwork that they give me, which that will be part of the purchase protocol. As you send me this artwork, I will then upload it into the space for you, and then I can deploy it from my end so that they'll have access to it immediately without me ever having to be in physical contact with them.
Awesome. That's great. And now, I know that at least one or two of the viewers in here, I mean, there's more than one or two, but James is also, who's been in the chat room, is into the NFTs. And so, I know that in one of our previous videos, you do give a little bit of a primer, like, so not necessarily looking for like a blockchain primer, but you do have some NFT driven aspects of this. So maybe we could talk about that a little bit.
Okay. Well, each one of the, so like I was saying, each one of these pieces of digital land or digital parcels of land, those are each NFTs. I purchased them from the project. They're really inexpensive too. They're a little bit. They're a couple of moves to get them. Like, they're not. It's not simply you can go on the website, click buy now, and there you go. There's definitely a couple of moves to it. They're on the Polygon network for those who are interested in the blockchain that they're on. So they're really low on gas, and so yeah, these are
so just real quick. So that's like
that's
the first part of the NFT, right? So the plot of land is an NFT, kind of like a
plot of
deed
land is an NFT. Yes,
okay.
And then because I have that NFT, I have access to be able to put content on that where the NFT itself lives, because all of these NFTs are geolocated. They have a global coordinates to them. So, some of them
So
live
like this one here has a
beach.
space. This is a space, like
Right.
real life space.
Right. Exactly. Now, if you're not physically in that space, you can still access it remotely if you have the URL address for it. And that's normally how I have people access it, because I have people from all over the world that are accessing it. I don't typically use the geolocation aspect of it as often as, well, not very often for this practical use. But yeah, so it does start as essentially as an empty NFT.
Yeah.
As far as how I'm incorporating my own NFTs in this, so with the biomechanical tattoo design one that I was showing you guys earlier, each one of those biomechanical designs, like these ones that are on the wall, those are all NFTs that are purchasable. And when you purchase that NFT, yes, it's just a JPEG that you get as, like, the actual NFT that shows up on your phone, but that's not what the NFT itself is. Most people have a misconception that NFTs are just JPEGs that can be screenshotted, and that's the furthest thing from the truth. So when you purchase this, you get a bunch of unlockable content that you have access to it by owning the NFT. There's a downloadable printable file that's a full resolution print. There is an archivable file that can be to where you can archive that. Personally, I think archiving and the nature of having artwork archived for the future generations is one of the biggest strengths of using blockchain for art, and why I'm so kind of bullish on NFTs. Yeah, they can make you money too, but I'm sure everybody knows that there's been a huge downturn in NFTs and blockchain related cryptocurrency, but that was never the reason that I got involved at all. Like, I got involved because I saw a way to be able to utilize blockchain technology as a way to record and archive the artwork. And I think that the prices of my NFTs reflect that. They're not cheap, but they're not expensive comparative to like what people would pay for an original painting. And I do still sell original paintings for much more than I would sell my NFTs. However, back to the biomechanical ones, the idea with these ones is that essentially you purchase the NFT and that gives you access to the design and license to be able to do whatever you want with that design within the scope of tattooing. If you own it, you can tattoo it on somebody or sell it as a tattoo. You can get it tattooed on yourself. You have full commercial license to do whatever you want with it as a tattoo. Now you can't turn it into a t-shirt. You can't turn it into posters and sell those things. You can't buy it and then turn it around and make copies of it and sell that flash on a Flash website. It's specifically for the buyer and for the owner of that particular NFT. So that's how I'm using these particular ones. I did another series a couple of months ago where when you purchase it, you get all the same stuff. You get an archivable high resolution file, you get the printable file, but you also get the original piece of artwork mailed to you. There's a video in there that explains a bit about the story of the piece and a piece of a story that that is kind of like a puzzle piece that encourages you to talk to other people who own the rest of the works from the series and kind of make the small community. So like it instigates and incentivizes community activity, and community activity is really, really important to me.
Awesome. Hell yeah. No, of course. It's something that, I mean, I imagine that's probably what attracted you to reinventing and Guy. Actually,
Absolutely.
maybe we could close out and talk about that. But first, one last comment in from the chat room. James Wisdom is asking, could I build a 3D model in, say, Procreate, and then Adrian, could you upload it into this NFT land space, or how would that work? If there's other artists that are using ZBrush and interested, how do they get involved?
Well, the short answer is yes, you can, but there are some parameters. Again, I like to emphasize that we're talking about using video game technology and using video game tech that has to run on a smartphone. So a lot of people think that when they're looking at these spaces, the immediate response is, why are the graphics of the quality that they are? And I have to explain to people that when you're looking at a video game, let's say you're looking at a brand new a brand new Spider-Man game or something that came out a year ago, or whatever it may be, one of these new PlayStation games, and they look so rendered, they look so real as you're walking through them in 3D. You have to keep in mind that the only thing that's rendering is the actual, what the camera can see, the viewport. Everything behind that is in low poly resolution. It only renders as you move the camera. With these things, that's not the case. Everything stays rendered the entire time. And on top of that, it has to be staying rendered with the tiniest little microchip and microprocessor, as opposed to an Xbox. That's an entire unit, an entire computer dedicated to just rendering those files. We're still really, really far behind in what we can do with these devices. But to answer your question, yes, you can take, let's say, a 3D arm from Procreate and draw it and design it, and then bring it into one of these land parcels and display it that way. However, there are limitations. One of the limitations is that it has to be under 50,000 triangles, which is 25,000 polygons, a max file size of 16 megabytes. We have a max amount of 25 textures, and they have to be no bigger than 2048 pixels by 2048 pixels. It gets a little bit nerdy in the limitations, but that's why I say yes, we can do that, but with an asterisk, because depending on how, if that, let's say you got a 3D arm that you drew a sleeve on and you subdivided that 3D arm up to 1 million polygons, we're not going to be able to put that on here. We're going to have to lower those polygons so far down that you'll lose some of that detail. And that's just where we're at with the platform. what I've been able to do with that biomechanical reinventing room was essentially some shortcuts. And that's in part the reason why, even as I'm going to start making these things available for tattoo shops and even other tattoo artists to purchase from me, one of those aspects of that purchase is going to be consulting with me back and forth, because I want to make sure that everybody can make it work. And I know that in a lot of cases, I'm going to actually be the one that's going to make it work. That's why I'm going to set up a series of parameters of like, when you purchase it, you need to send me these 6 things. They need to be within these formats and within these sizes. And then once I got that, then I can do what you want to do with it. But I'm sure I'm going to run into brick walls when people are going to say, well, I want it to do this instead, and or I actually want it to be this size, or things like that, you know. So we're still at the very, very beginning of it. There are a couple of other companies within tattooing that I'm hoping to kind of partner up and team up with in order to be able to extend the reach of this project. But yeah, keep an eye out. That's where I'm going to go with it. And I'm hoping to be able to, at the very least, by the end of the year, I'm hoping that there's a handful of shops that are going to have access to it and be able to use it. And everybody should be able to visit from anywhere in the world. I mean, just imagine, awesome. You know, not that he's going to have one. I can't imagine that Philip would ever want one. But, you know, you think about Philip Liu's shop, you know, being one of the like the pilgrimages for tattooing. Now, you may not be able to visit, you know, Philip Liu's, you know, Liu Family Iron on top of the hill in Switzerland, but maybe there could be a space where you and other enthusiasts for that artist's work can meet up. You know, you have an address, say, hey, everybody meet up at 6:30 and, you know, warm up a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, and we'll just go in there and we'll nerd out about the project. It's kind of like, it's like, imagine a Twitter space, or even like this, like a Zoom call with several different people on there. But now we have a 3D and interactive environment to be able to supplement that meeting, give us something else to kind of, you know, sink our teeth into. I'm super excited for what this could potentially mean, not only for our ways of interacting with each other, but what it can mean for the tattoo industry.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I imagine that right away, you're probably gonna have people that are like, that's awesome. How can I do that? I know sometimes I'm doing like interactive videos and shit. And I'm like, oh my God, look at what I did. Like I did something that like, I don't know anybody else that could do. And I showed to like 5 different people, and like 2 of them are like, that's awesome. How could I do that? I'm like, motherfucker, I haven't even sold one yet. I just fucking made this shit. You know? You know, it's sick. And, you know, the ability, you know, and obviously, yeah, the Liu family would be the, you know, the pinnacle of one of these kinds of experiences. Of course, you know, one of the things that we were just talking about, you know, Guy in hyperspace, he is kind of, you know, pretty techie and into this kind of stuff. I definitely want to head out to hyperspace and meet you there so we can map that spot out. So then when people go there, you know, they click their phone, all of a sudden these things are like, you know,
yeah, this tech was made for somebody like Guy. Like, you know, his design work is already so heavily spatial and dimensional that as soon as I crack like the code, because I'm definitely working on cracking that code. Ideally, like I want to be able to take somebody into one of my biomechanical pieces, not just look at an image of it. Right. I'm not there yet. And what I have figured out, it's a ton of work. However, I'm not afraid of hard work. And if I can make, you know, even if it's just one, if I can make one really nice biomechanical image for people to walk around and explore and duck under and walk up to that light source and see it, you know, vibrating in your face, like we just brought it to life. We're getting closer. Yeah. We're getting closer.
Yeah, James, you'll end up probably catching up with this James guy. He's no stranger to this. He's like, you know what? Just means, you know, because of the limitations, you just, oh, well, let me just quote him. So start with simple designs with strong positive, negative relationships, and then start saving the details for the end, you know, as the computers catch up.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. You know, we're starting, and that's part of the reason that some of those images that you guys saw in that little video reel that you were showing, Gabe, a lot of those are very they're very basic primitives, you know, cubes, rectangles, you know, things like that. They're real basic primitives. Like this environment that you're looking at right now, that's a cylinder. That's a cylinder that I blew up to where you're standing inside of a cylinder. But it's a relatively basic object. It's just what I'm doing with that basic object that gives the illusion that there's a lot more to it, you know? And I think that as of right now, that is probably what's separating me and my work from a lot of other metaverse like experience builders right now. I feel like in conversations about this stuff with other people who are building, my work has been often referred to as very clever. I have a very clever way of keeping my file sizes so small. And the reason that I keep them small is so that there isn't strobing and there's not lagging, or what do they call it, like buffering issues on the phone. The bigger the experience is, the more you're going to get strobing, and I want it to move super smooth.
Yeah, and you lose people. Like if all of a sudden it's not working, or if it's skipping, you just lose people. And to your point, like, yeah, you could see here how like these textures here, yeah, you probably used up all 2000 by 2000 pixels and like, you know, compressed it to the very max, but not too much. So it's like just the right size.
Right.
You know,
and that little balance, that dance, man, like it gets difficult. Like I've gotten to the point now where I figured out how to read exactly how many polygons I'm using at any given time when I'm working in Blender. And so, you know, I'm counting it down to the 100 polygons, you know, it's really, and that's part of why people are contacting me to be able to build their experiences that aren't tattoo or art related, is because they've been able to see that not only does my stuff look good, but that it plays well, that it renders in real time. And not everybody can do that. A lot of times you get really fancy builds that are huge files and they skip, or, you know, things like that. And, you know, for me, function is first. Function is 100%.
That's all I do with all the TattooNOW and stuff. It's like we make a lot of fancy computer stuff that do great things, and then we refine and try to simplify and reduce friction.
Yep, absolutely.
And, no, this
reduce friction. That's the way to go. That's the way to go.
So yeah, look at all this stuff, man. Well, it is absolutely wicked exciting. Let's close up with a little bit of story about Guy. What was your first introduction to Guy Aitchison and reinventing? And did you get tattooed by him ever? Or?
I did not get tattooed by him. We have done collaborative.
Let's hear about it.
So I first met Guy at a tattoo convention in Phoenix, at one of the first Hell Cities in Phoenix. He was doing a collaborative with Aaron Kane on Saber, actually, on stage. They were doing both of his sleeves. And I had always been a huge fan when I first got into tattooing. I was a big fan of, do you remember the anime Ghost in the Shell? Ghost in the Shell was such a huge influence on me as an artist, especially younger. And I had this bright idea that I was going to make people into these, like, you know, robotic kind of things, you know, and aliens. So I was like, oh yeah, I can totally make that into tattoos. I had no idea that there was people already doing that. So when I got into tattooing and I started digging around, I ended up looking at finding a flyer for Aaron Kane's tattoo machines years and years ago, like a little pamphlet. And between those two guys, Marcus Pacheco and Eddie Deutsch, those were probably the ones that stood out the most. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, I'm running the Aaron Kane.
Guy Aitchison,
yeah.
5 more minutes.
Just want 5 minutes, and I'll
please.
Yeah,
thank you.
easy.
So we have somebody doing some work. Yeah, so I met him there, and we immediately got along. And I've been fortunate enough to have been befriended and work alongside with Guy a handful of times, and I'm grateful that he respects and admires me as a peer. I feel good to be able to know that I've contributed to biomechanical tattooing as a style, and yeah. Since then, awesome. We've maintained our friendship. I don't talk to him super often, but when we do, it's very much like catching up with an old friend. And I'm super grateful that he's always so enthusiastic about the stuff that I'm making, and has always been really supportive about pushing me to continue to explore biomechanical tattooing.
And yeah, you're killing it. I'm showing this is the Tattoo Wars episode that they
That's
were
the
talking
Tattoo
about.
Wars episode. Yep, that's when I met him.
It's really sad. This was like the one TV show that, or maybe not the one TV show, but it was definitely a wicked awesome TV show that.
It was the best one. I got 4 episodes in, and then they canned it. But that was it was easily one of the most like honest tattoo shows out there.
Yeah, but like look at this. This was the final tattoo that's coming out of the shows here. We're gonna get to the end here because this is a good way to wrap up here.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me, Gabe. I really appreciate you taking the time to ask me more about this stuff. I don't know how many people are in the chat down under. However, if anybody would like to meet up in one of these spaces, you can go on my website, and there should be a button that says Over Experiences. If you go on there, find the Smokehouse. I'll meet you guys in there in a few minutes.
Hold on, let me just real quick show people how to get there.
Yeah.
The Over Experiences.
Yep.
And,
right there. So if you scroll down, click there for the Smokehouse, and I can meet you guys in there. So when you click on that, as you can see on the screen, you'll click on Open in App, not Open in Marketplace. And then when it'll take you to the app. I don't know if it will show on here.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, this would if people are down, that's the way to click it. And yeah, awesome, man. Well, have fun, and I'll try to catch up with you there, but I think my wife just got home.
That's fine. That's fine.
Opposite hour, but we'll catch up very soon. Thanks again. I appreciate you being in.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate you, everybody.
The replay and get the podcast out, and we'll catch up very soon. AdrianDominic.com, everybody.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Okay. Now wave the